Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up? By DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Scott Geirman. Scott, tell me if you've heard this before, but the Dodgers win again, their 1 millionth win in a row, I think. I'm not quite sure if that number is accurate, but incredible stuff from the Dodgers that on a night like tonight just keep rolling.
Yeah, they're on a 9-game runner. It's just really good to see 9 of their last 10. It's just absolutely continue to, increase the separation in the NL West, establish dominance, play really well against another first place team. This is just more of what we've been seeing over the last few weeks from this Dodgers team. And in the month of August, they're just unbelievable. Yeah. This is fun time to be a fan. This is really good stuff.
13 out of 14 that the Dodgers have now won. As we said, they're 9th in a row. They're going for 5 consecutive series victories tomorrow against the Brewers. And of course, look, we can't get more than a couple minutes into the show, Scott, without talking about Bobby Miller, because this guy was the storyline. The Dodgers' top pitching prospect, maybe the top prospect, depending on who you ask, starts the game with a single on the very first pitch. He loses a 1-2 count to give up a walk on the second batter. And then no big deal. He retires 18 consecutive before coming out of this game. Bobby Miller was the story. And for a team that is desperate for starting pitching, a pretty encouraging night all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Watching Bobby Miller's outings from both, how Dave has, handled him, how the team has handled him. It's been interesting, and it's been very fun to watch him mature over the course of this season and, really provide him with a leash to, learn and grow. And we're watching that each time. So it's as high of a we were on Bobby Miller as a prospect coming up.
Yeah.
He's showing like a continuing, thing to build and to grow each time out. And you flash back 2 starts ago against the Padres, they had a quick hook after 3 2/3, and it was kind of odd, but they were able to push on in that game, and it was kind of a learning experience. Last time out, he goes 6 innings, 4 hits, shutout. Fantastic. Tonight he gives up, retires 18 straight. It's just so much confidence in himself. And you see Dave, I just love how he meets with him afterwards. And it just looks, he sits in the dugout, shakes his hand, and whatever that conversation is, I'm sure it's, hell of a job, way to go. We'll keep building on this. And just, you can really see Bobby Miller show that fire, but a lot of trust in himself.
Yeah. Dodgers offense didn't really get going until the 5th or 6th. But again, the storyline here is Miller. So let's break it down a little bit more, Scott. His final line is 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts. Again, the hit was the first batter. The walk was the second batter. The run, I believe, was the 3rd or 4th batter. And from there, it was a bunch of zeros everywhere. So what was it, Scott, from your perspective that made Bobby Miller so effective tonight? I mean, because we know he can throw 101 miles an hour, but it feels like he's putting together more than just overpowering people.
Yeah, no, you can see that just like I spoke on, the confidence that he's showing in his secondary stuff. Everyone knows that he has the eye-popping fastball. You look it up and you're seeing constant, triple digits from him, like without a doubt. But when he's been able to throw that, when he's showing confidence in different counts to throw it, what we saw early on is that he was not able to land his off-speed stuff for a strike. And then you could just spit on it and you'd watch hitters really prey on that fastball. And then that triple digits, no longer, a daunting thing. This is the big leagues. It's, that back in, 2000 or in the 90s, it would have been impossible. But now it seems like everywhere you look, guys are throwing 100. But tonight from Bobby, he snapped off a few changeups right in the heart of the zone. But that's just because it's just terrific sequencing, trust, placement. And it's just, I can't speak enough about Bobby. We could spend an hour talking about him tonight because it was just, it was terrific.
And look, the Brewers are the 3rd best team in the National League by record coming into this game. And so let's not pretend like Bobby Miller was going up against a bunch of scrubs. This wasn't the Padres. Okay, I'll just let that one sit there. But this wasn't a bad team. This wasn't the A's. This wasn't the Rockies. The Dodgers have gotten crushed for, hey, you're beating bad teams. Well, guess what? The 3rd best team in the National League, winning their division, comes in, and the Dodgers shut him down. Again, it's a hit and a walk the first 2 batters, and then Bobby Miller retires 18 in a row. I don't want to belabor the point on Miller, but I mean, where are you at on Bobby Miller so far, Scott? Is he a guy that you're ready to count on come postseason time? Like, do we still need to see a couple more outings, or where are you at from a confidence level in a guy who, look, we know about the stuff, we know about the prospect pedigree, but he had a rough stretch. Now he's had a couple good starts in a row. Like, give me your sort of big picture where you're at with Bobby Miller in the short term, not the long term.
Right. I think, he's pitching as well as he ever has. So am I confident going into him in a postseason game and that he's going to rise to it emotionally? Sure. He's got that ferocity that he's going to be confident. Like, that's a lot of thing you look for in these young guys. Like, are you going to be confident stepping in, like, on the mound there in a postseason spot, packed house? I think Bobby Miller understands that he belongs.
Yeah.
Performance aside, can't speak to those hypotheticals, but a lot of what Walker Buehler showed early in his career, he knows that he has the stuff to compete. It's just a matter of, is he willing to rise to that occasion and not get, let that overtake him. And I think honestly, you're seeing that each time out. That first inning, when he gave up that run, it was like, take a breath. I was at the game against the Reds in late July. He gave up 3 right away. And then after that, he cruised. Yeah. So it's about getting over that hump and then able to, bring that back in, that this is just an isolated thing. And he's just been terrific. So looking ahead towards postseason, am I confident in him being there? Absolutely. Am I confident in him rising to that spot? 100%. So it's just, let's build on this, but he's just doing everything, against teams that are, maybe not the most talented against like the Brewers, but he's dominating them. It's not just poo-pooing through starts.
Yeah. Look, hey, I'm with you on that one. I want to say thanks to everybody joining us, by the way, live on Facebook, live on YouTube. We appreciate you as always. If you're listening to this via podcast after the fact, thank you to you as well. Again, the Dodgers win their 9th in a row, this time beating the Brewers 6-2. And something we've become accustomed to, Scott, they go down early and they come back and score 6 straight runs in the 5th and 6th innings to take this one. You mentioned it there with Miller. I think there's no question about the stuff. He throws 101. The breaking ball's nasty when it's on. There's no question about the mentality. We know what a competitor this guy is. We know sort of the confidence level that he has in himself. But I think you touched on it, Scott, and I think we can't let this pass. The fact that he struggled to start, that it was a single and a walk, and the 4th batter of the game, he's down 1-0. The fact that he's able to bounce back from that, to me, that's like the question. The question has never been, will the stuff be good enough? Will he care enough? Will he be intense enough, competitive enough? The question is, like, was he going to be a loose cannon, basically? Like, was the stuff and the mentality actually going to become a detriment because he was just going to sort of be in his own head? The fact that he can allow a run that early in the game, come back and retire 18 in a row, I think of all the positives, and I know 18 in a row is a positive in and of itself. I think the fact that he gave up a run and then retired 18 in a row, to me, is like the takeaway. I leave this game thinking, great, the Dodgers won, they extend the lead, ho-hum, another day in Dodgerland. But I'm mostly thinking about, wow, like Bobby Miller is maturing more quickly than I think was realistic maybe to expect from him. But for him to bounce back in a big game at home against the Brewers, the 3rd best team in the National League, again, by record, that to me is the most impressive thing we saw tonight.
Yeah, no, it's just been remarkable, man. Like watching, young arms come up and succeed and then struggle a bit and then figure it out, especially with as high of expectations if you have on Bobby. Like, Gavin Stone was one thing, but Bobby Miller, we've been hearing about for years that he belongs, that this is, this is the guy. He's the untouchable. And there's certainly a reason, like a month and a half ago, he had that stretch where he allowed 7, 6, and then 3 right away. And you're like, what do we've got here? And then after that Pittsburgh, he struggled a bit, and you kind of question, is he ready for this? But they've just shown, like, without also needing him in the rotation for the innings. That's helped him so much. Like, I think that Mark Pryor, Dave, it's just been a team effort to really allow him to figure it out in the big leagues, that your stuff's not for AAA. Your stuff should be here. And this was I feel like this was a defining start for Bobby. I agree. And I know that there was probably some turned heads when Dave pulled him from the game there after 6.
Talk to me about that. Did you like that decision? 70 something pitches.
In the moment, I would have let him go. Okay. But hindsight's everything. Like, and that it's easy to say that. I would have absolutely let him go. But if you just don't need to, get him out of there through 6. A lot of the wart was that, you in the 5th inning or at the back end of his outings, it would kind of get away from him. I like when if it's better to be, an inning early than an inning late, especially with a young starter. So I think for that, how he finished it, it's okay. And it's easy to say that because Yarbrough came in and shoved. Yeah. But, that's another story. But I'm okay with it. And after thinking about it and looking at the whole situation, 4 strikeouts, he was working them, man. It was just fun. I'm speechless about it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's worth pointing out when they pulled him, the Dodgers hadn't quite pulled away from this one. They were pulling away after the decision. I mean, he goes down as the winner because it's 6-1 technically by the time Yarbrough comes in. But at the time, it was 1-1 when Dave Roberts makes that call. And I'm with you. Look, they're 8.5, 9 games up in the division. At the time, now they're 9 games up. So I guess 8.5 coming in, and it's like, you don't need to force your guy. Your guy just retired 18 in a row. Like, let him go out on a high note. Like you said, it's better to be 1 inning early than 1 inning late, especially with a guy like Bobby Miller. To your point, only 4 strikeouts, 25% whiff rate. Like, those aren't numbers that are amazing, but he was getting outs. Let him go out thinking, yeah, I'm the man. Like, I just retired 18 in a row. I can do this. Build up the confidence and then go to the bullpen. Of course, the fact that the offense ends up tacking on 5 runs in the bottom of the 6th does not hurt. So let's talk about the offense, because we spent all this time talking about the pitching. So again, Dodgers give up a run in the first. Hauser was nails through the first 4 innings. I believe he was perfect heading into the 4th. The bottom of the 5th is when the Dodgers strike. They get a single and a double to lead off the inning. James Outman strikes out. Give me your mental state, Scott. You've got runners on 2nd and 3rd. Outman strikes out, and Miguel Rojas is up. Look, we know the struggles he's had on big picture on the season. I've been one of his loudest critics. The guy had started to hit of late. Did you have confidence in that spot that Rojas was going to be able to get the job done and tie the game? Or were you thinking, holy smoke, 2nd and 3rd, no outs, we're really going to blow this?
I mean, of course it's going to cross your mind that you're 2nd and 3rd, 1 down, Rojas up, and you're like, he needs to get a bat like a barrel. He needs to find something, get it out there. But he's been really solid as of late. Is that bat quality's been there? He's been the bottom of the order has been fun, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was confident from a standpoint of recency bias with it that he wasn't just going to sell it, but I also wouldn't have been surprised if Hauser ran his 2-seam sinker right inside and blown up a barrel, and we're standing up there with 2 outs and nothing's changed. But I was fairly confident with that. He's looked really good. There's one thing that he's shown lately is at bat quality, and his RBI total has just been off the charts. I mean, considering where we started, it's not a very high bar, but I was pretty confident with it.
Yeah. He ends up grounding out, scores the run though. Productive outs. We'll take that. The Dodgers tie the game at 1. I'm going to pause right there because we got a super chat. That's kind of our rule. If somebody throws a super chat in, we'll talk about it. Noah wants to know, we talked a lot about Bobby Miller. We've seen Julio put together 3 starts in a row. Who do you trust more right now, Scott? If you needed a win and your choices were Julio Urias on normal rest or Bobby Miller on normal rest, who would you throw out there?
I'm going to kind of go, I'm going to say Julio, man, because even though I've been critical of Julio I know this was I was very pessimistic about how he started the season. It just, kind of at different points when things would get away, he was not lackadaisical, but just a little bit like he wasn't able to reel it back in. But to Julio's credit, he's turned it on. He's been everything they've needed, and I'm going to give you your props, man. That call has been stuck in my mind since you asked who's kind of the most important arm for the player maybe for the Dodgers right now. It's Julio. So I trust Julio. His whiff rate's been fantastic. He's looked good. He's looked confident out there. Right-handed hitters, he's been shown a real ability to throw his stuff backdoor, and that's really thrown hitters off. And when he's doing that, he's rocking. He's got some swagger, and it's just been so I'm gonna say Julio a little bit. Just I would say a considerable amount, just because he's done this, he's been there, done that. But it's not a bad thing to have a rookie right behind him.
Yeah, this isn't. I can't answer this question without somebody telling me that I'm being negative, because I'm not trying to be. But Julio's the answer, and because obviously we've seen it long term. We've seen a number of a larger sample size, but now we've seen it in a few starts in a row. That's why I trust him. Look, Bobby Miller's really good. I had Lance Lynn in that number 3 starter spot when I was making my playoff rotation on Sunday night. I think after a night like tonight, you've got to question whether or not Bobby Miller, Lance Lynn, that would maybe be the more interesting question. I'll ask you that one here in a second, Scott. But I will say this about Miller. I mean, you look at tonight, the results are really good. The whiff rate, 25% is good, not great. He's last outing, he had 4 walks. Prior to, if we're looking at sort of mid-June to late July, he had basically 6 out of 7 starts where he'd allowed 3 or more earned runs. Julio, obviously similar. So I'm looking at 2 guys who didn't have the years that they were hoping to have early, and then 2 guys who have kind of turned it around of late. So I would say it's kind of a push, and I'm going to give the advantage to the guy that's shown me he can do it for a number of years, who's thrown 200 innings and shows me that I'll be able to trust them, 5 or 6 starts from now. That'll be the interesting thing with Bobby Miller, is just what kind of gas does he have left in the tank as the season goes on. But I'll ask a slightly different question. Do you have Bobby Miller ahead of Lance Lynn, the way that we've seen him? Another guy who's a vet, but who's been really, really bad prior to coming to the Dodgers, has, a top 3 Cy Young finish in his back pocket from the last couple of years. Lance Lynn or Bobby Miller, who do you trust more?
I'd say Bobby.
Okay.
I'm just going to say Bobby. Yeah, I like what Bobby's doing at the moment. I think that I'll let Dave figure that out. I'll let the front office figure out who they like, but just from what I'm seeing, I'm going to say Bobby.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. Again, I mean, it's kind of like it's flavor of the month. Obviously, Bobby Miller's stuff is more electric. You like the mentality. You're not worried about that. Lance Lynn, veteran presence, guy who's been there, guy who's had the highest of highs in the major leagues and who's pitched really, really well since coming to the Dodgers. I'd probably still lean Lance Lynn, but I think that gap is closing on the number 3 starter for the Dodgers. I think Julio and Kershaw are kind of in a tier of their own. And then I think it's Lance Lynn and Bobby Miller fighting it out for 3 and 4. And then I think it's a drop off, and it's Tony Gonsolin, who last outing was pretty good. But I think he's kind of clearly in that number 5 spot. So Noah, thank you for the super chat. We greatly appreciate it. Again, if you've got a question you want answered ASAP, throw that in a super chat and we will get to it. Let's get back to the offense. So the Dodgers tie it in the 5th. They have runners on 2nd and 3rd with nobody out. They're able to score just 1. Mookie Betts flies out to end that inning. Bobby Miller, as expected, comes back 1-2-3 inning in the top of the 6th. And then Hauser, who had been kind of shutting the Dodgers down prior to the 5th inning, starts to struggle. Dodgers start the inning off with a pop out. Will Smith safe at first on a throwing error by the 3rd baseman. That's an interesting moment because it could have been nobody on and 2 out. Instead, Will Smith is on. There's just 1 out. Muncy singles, Martinez doubles. Then we get a pitching change. Hernandez singles, foul out, single, strikeout. All of a sudden, classic 2023 gritty Dodgers fashion, Scott, a bunch of singles, a rally that's extended by an error early on. And all of a sudden, a game that was close and a pitching duel is now 6-1.
Yeah, no, it's just, it happened really fast.
Yeah.
Like it just looked like it was, after they tacked on the 1 to even it up, it looked like they figured it out. Like they were it was just a matter of time. And I don't know about you, but the last Dodgers team where it just felt like when they were behind or they needed to scratch some runs on, and it felt like it was just a matter of time when they got the book out, that team went a long way. So it's just, it feels like they're able to do that. And, I know it's the Brewers, but the Brewers did what they do exactly all year: prevent runs. They're going to be, an opportunistic offense. They're going to scratch them across, just like you saw in the first. They're going to make, just like Frelick, get bat on ball, don't give away at bats. And you're going to just drive a run in. But it's a matter of time before the Dodgers, find that book and then blow it open. And just like you saw tonight, drop a 5 spot real quick.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the box score and you see Hauser's night and you think, oh, okay, only 5 hits allowed, no walks. He allowed 11 hard hit balls tonight. So it felt like there was probably a little bit of batted ball luck in his favor. You look at hard hit numbers. I love looking at this. If you looked at the 19 hardest hit balls tonight, 14 of them were from the Dodgers. So that tells you kind of everything you need to know. 14-5, the top 19 hardest hit balls tonight. The Dodgers were just all over it. They get 11 off of Hauser, and eventually it breaks through. And to your point, Scott, it just feels like this team is inevitable at times, that the Dodgers are just eventually the dam is going to burst. If the pitching staff can keep the opposing run total low, 1 run tonight, but even if it's 2 or 3, it just feels like it's a matter of time before they wear down a starter, they get to a bullpen, they catch the right reliever on the right night, and all of a sudden the floodgates bust open. Tonight, it wasn't even the home run ball. Again, the RBIs were double, a single, mix in 2 or 3 more singles in that inning. And they didn't need the home run ball. It was just piecing it together. And you love calling them the gritty Dodgers, but 5 runs in the 6th, a bunch of singles and one double, a walk, reach on an error. Like, they just find ways to get it done. And I think, to me, that's the piece that's most encouraging on the offensive side, that it wasn't Mookie Betts that was the hero tonight. It wasn't Freddie Freeman that was the hero tonight. It was Kike. It was, Rojas with a couple RBI knocks, a couple different RBI opportunities, an RBI ground out and then an RBI single. Like, when the bottom of the lineup is the one producing and giving you a night off. So you get Bobby Miller, your number 4 starter, throws a gem. Rojas and Hernandez provide the offense along with JD Martinez. You don't need Kershaw tonight. You didn't need Freeman and Betts tonight. That's the piece to me that is so encouraging on a Tuesday night, and ho-hum, they've won 8 in a row, off day yesterday. Easy to take this one off. The offense says, no, screw it. We're going out and we're winning our 9th in a row, 6-2 over the Brewers.
Yeah, no, this offense was barreling it up. Like, they had, I think I counted just 15 or 16 hard hit balls. So they're making them count. And that long at bat there from Kike Hernandez, against Hobie Milner, who's been really effective this year. Yeah. That was something that really, for me, I had to take a step back and really look at that. By the way, I can't believe I made it like 20 minutes without calling them the Gritty Dodgers. So everybody take note, Gritty Dodgers. It's just, this for me was textbook of how they're going to do it. This is how I'd like them to start a little bit earlier with the offense, but
it'd be nice
when Hauser's got that, sinker 2-seam really running, he's missing barrels. That's going to be tough, but it could have happened a lot earlier. When they did finally catch some barrels, it was in a hurry and it was all smushed together and it was spread out. So it was good stuff. Mookie had 3, Will Smith. It was really nice. It was good to see them, take care of business. And what's the next thing, man? We've got a lot to talk about with the offense. It was kind of a clinic once they got it going.
Yeah. And I want to switch to the pitching real quick, because the offense scores 6 and then Yarbrough comes in and he has the Bobby Miller problem. First batter he faces is a home run to Carlos Santana. But from there, it was absolute shutdown. No more hits allowed, no more walks. So Miller gives up 2 base runners and then retires 18 in a row. Yarbrough comes in, gives up a home run in his first guy he faces, and then retires 9 in a row after that. He finishes with 2 strikeouts. And look, Yarbrough was the guy they traded for right before the end of the deadline, like at the very last minute. And nobody was all that excited. He didn't, he came in with a 4.24. He throws 88-mile-an-hour fastballs, 31 years old. Like, what are we doing here? Well, he's now at 10 1/3 innings for the Dodgers, just 2 earned runs. He's allowed just 5 hits and no walks. Let me repeat that. 10+ innings and 5 base runners for Ryan Yarbrough. He's kind of the perfect bulk guy. He piggybacks off Bobby Miller, who's throwing 101, and then you get a weird throwing lefty who's throwing 89. I'm not saying like Yarbrough's the answer to anything, but
he's a guy.
Folks, have I been impressed by this guy?
I think it's time to say that he's a guy.
Yeah,
like he's a weapon. Like that's a piece out there that. So tonight you get Bobby goes out there, shoves for 6. Yarbrough comes in there, takes the rest of the game. 1
hard hit ball. Yarbrough allowed in 3 innings, 1 hard hit ball. That was the home run. So 9 straight, no hard hit balls.
But that's fine, at the stage of the game. But that was fun. I got to watch a long ball, which was great. Yeah, that was cool. Santana got into that one, but he just pounds the zone. He understands that, free passes for a guy throwing that 88 miles an hour is not a good recipe for success, but he's fit right in, and he is certainly a weapon that gives your bullpen time off, that extends your, throughout a series. How valuable is that?
Yeah.
I know I saw somebody say that it was just, hilarious watching Bobby coming in there throwing 100 and then you get 88 from a funky delivery. So that was just unreal. And then he snaps off that slider that wipes across about, 3 feet into the other batter's box. So, man, just a weapon. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, let's get to some players of the game. If you're new around here, we try and do not just one player of the game, because most nights, like tonight, it's pretty easy to identify one guy. But we put together a podium of players. So if you're in the chat, if you're here live joining us on Facebook or YouTube, throw us a podium. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place. Just list off 3 names in the order that you would like them for who would be the player of the game. Scott, I think the gold medal here is a pretty easy one. Like, is there any doubt that Bobby Miller is the player of the game tonight?
No, it's Bobby. 18 straight, battles back. It's just, got to be Bobby.
6 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 earned run. You clinch yourself the player of the game. From there is where I think it gets interesting. I always like to look at the box score. As I've said a couple times, Rojas gets you a couple RBIs. Kike Hernandez 1 for 2 as a pinch hitter. He gets you 2 RBIs. Mookie Betts was 2 for 4. Max Muncy was 2 for 4. No walks for the Dodgers. That's an interesting line you don't really see. So you've got Betts and Muncy with a pair of hits apiece. You've got Hernandez and Rojas with 2 RBIs apiece. And then Ryan Yarbrough, who we said 3 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned, no walks, 2 strikeouts, shuts this thing down for a 3-inning save. So give me your second and third place player of the game, and I'll start looking through some of the comments here. Deuce has got Miller, Yarbrough, and Kike. Lieutenant Beaches just says Miller number 1. Roy's got Miller, Peralta, and Kike. We've got Miller, Yarbrough, and Hernandez. So give me your second and third behind Bobby Miller.
It's dicey because there's just a lot of production up and down the lineup. Kike's at bat. That was fun. That was just wow. It was a long one, and he went to work. But I'm gonna zag a little bit here. I'm gonna say JD. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say JD Martinez, because earlier, he really almost established, a big one. Like he almost had a, ball off the wall, and then he comes in, ropes another one, and his spot in the lineup, it was funny that he came in and they were having the event at the stadium yesterday, and he wanted to take swings. So he went to, somebody's going to drop it in the chat. I forgot which high school he went to, full gear, everything, to go take some swings, which is just the most JD Martinez thing ever. Wants to hit just dingers. Comes in tonight, has good barrels, and then they make a mistake and throw him a fastball in her half, and he punishes it. Yeah. And that's a huge decider in the game. Loyola, thank you. So I really like what he had right there. So I'm going to say JD, because he needs to be back. For them not calling up Michael Busch and letting that happen, you'd bet your butt that I really wanted to see JD come in here tonight and really put it on it. And he had some barrels.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair. So you've got JD in the number 2.
I'm going to say JD too, just from me being biased, because I understand his value to the offense. Okay. Who do you got in the 3 spot? I'm going to say Ryan Yarbrough, man. Yeah. That was just, they're figuring out more about him every single time. They're processing what he's got, what he's going for himself. And it just gives the rest, when you're able to find a bulk guy like that doesn't mind coming out of the bullpen for, a few up downs and clear out the rest of the game, that's invaluable. Yep. So I think he's a huge piece to the puzzle going forward. And it's a big curveball, or in his case, a drop down slider, whatever he wants to call it, to the opposition. So I'm going to say Yarbrough in the 3 spot. Yeah, I've got Yarbrough in the 2 spot. Like you said, I mean, day off yesterday, you get a guy who comes in and rests your whole bullpen again. So the whole bullpen is fully rested. You love to see that. Obviously, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 3 innings. Boom. I love everything about it. So I'll put him in the 2 spot. And then I got to give Rojas a little bit of love here. You don't love a ground out with runners on second and third, but after the guy in front of you strikes out, you'll take the ground out, you'll take the RBI, and then he comes up later with another RBI. And maybe it's the opposite of bias. Maybe I've crapped on him enough this season that I've got to give him some love on a night like tonight. So I know a lot of people had Kike, who's a fair option. Again, Mookie Betts, Max Muncy, both had 2 hits, the only Dodgers to reach twice, all fair. You mentioned JD Martinez getting a nice little rip there. So lots of different options, but that's who I've got for my players of the game. Before we dive into questions here, Scott, I mean, is there anything else from this game that you want to touch on before we get to some questions? You mentioned JD Martinez. I know you wanted to talk about him. Any last thoughts on Bobby Miller, Ryan Yarbrough, anything else before we get to some questions here? Honestly, I don't know if you had a chance to read that, just the Bob Nightingale article that he wrote about the Dodgers. And if anybody hasn't, I would implore you to go check that out. What a lot of these, Dave Roberts is saying about this team, Lance Lynn is saying about the team, he understands why players want to come and play for the Dodgers. You see them in the playoffs year after year. They're playing with a sense of urgency. And Dave Roberts said this is his favorite team to manage. Like, a little bit of a troll that it was me calling them the gritty Dodgers, but there's just something different about this Dodgers team. It should make people feel nostalgic that they have role players who are going up there and doing their job. And it feels like when the occasion is on them, they're rising to it. Ahmed Rosario, Kike Hernandez, David Peralta, Jason Hayward. He's been struggling, comes up, finds a barrel. That was big. Yeah. So how long has it been since we've seen this?
It's been a while.
And yeah, it's been a long time. So I would definitely tell everyone, go read that. Just some really fantastic quotes, stuff you really like to see out of this type of team. That's big time for me.
Some post-game quotes coming in. Our guy, Bob Blake Williams on Twitter. Dave Roberts said taking Bobby Miller out was about keeping his workload in mind moving forward. Quote, there's no exact science to it, but the number one goal is his health and to keep him ready to go for October. They're having discussions with Bobby Miller about it as well. We kind of touched on that, but no surprises there, I would say, right?
No surprises. Yeah, it kind of fits right into it. Build on it going forward. I think the next box to check would be if he's in a spot and his pitch counts in check, to go deeper into a game. If it's at a good spot in the order that they feel comfortable letting him go another time through, or if it's better to just end it right there. I think that's, another thing that they're discussing with him.
Love it. Roberts on Ryan Yarbrough, quote, it's a huge lift for all of us, a big boost to our pen on Yarbrough's ability to eat innings out of the bullpen. And then he had this quote on Mookie Betts, quote, he's just playing on a level that not many guys on the planet can play on. Sometimes it feels like Mookie Betts is just kind of a ho-hum guy. There's not maybe a ton of flair is maybe the right word. Like he kind of just goes about his business. He's like Freddie Freeman in many ways, maybe even more flamboyant, if you will, than Freddie Freeman. These are two guys that just go about their business, ho-hum, hit for average, hit for power, hit clutch, play great defense. And I mean, it's like Dave said, there aren't many guys who can do. Mookie Betts not even in the top 5 or 6 guys on the entire thing. He goes 2 for 4 and missed a home run by a few inches. It seemed like
3 hard hit balls tonight.
Yeah.
And it's just stars are starring, role players are playing. I know Blake hates me saying that, but stars are starring, role players are playing, man.
Blake can't handle the positivity. Any positivity about this? 9 games up. He hates
it. 9 game runner, and everybody should be feeling good. This is a win. It's a first place team. Again, how the Brewers like to conduct baseball games. Keep the scoring close, let their pitching dominate, opportunistic hitting, and the Dodgers found a way to break through against Hauser, who was having himself a day early on.
They played the Brewers game and beat them at it. So you love to see that. Let's get to some questions. If you've got them, all caps questions in the chat. We'll get to some of those. TQT asked this. Dave stated years ago, Kike is one of the most clutch hitters he's ever managed. I know he's a lefty masher. Is there any way to get him some more at bats? Maybe RVS worked his magic again. I have been surprised. It does feel like Kike and Rosario have gotten some shots against righties. They've given Peralta some chances against lefties. So it feels like they're giving these guys chances. I mean, they keep hitting. Like, I don't know. They've got all these platoon guys that seem to be hitting. Peralta's hitting lefties. Kike and Rosario are hitting righties. I don't know what they're going to do with all these guys.
Yeah, no, it's good. Just flash back to when we did the spring training show. Early on, we want to see guys like have an opportunity to hit against both sides. And I'm glad that Davis is doing it, knowing that splits are pretty heavy. Kike didn't really do much in Boston, but he's come here, kind of had a revelation. Change of culture, change of scenery does a lot. But I'm sure there's stuff in there why he's finding so many barrels, why he's having such good at-bat quality. Extra base hits are off the charts. I think right now he has, 8 in 17 games. So something unbelievable. As far as Rosario, he's their lefty guy. You've seen him hit as high as, I think, 4 in the batting order against the left-handed pitcher. So it's just been to see them understand that his main priority is going to be against left-handed pitching. And when they need it in a pinch, he's still going to go up there and have good at-bats. He's looked a little stymied against a righty sometimes, but the fact that they're putting them in those spots shows that they're not just going to be in there. It doesn't signal a full platoon that they want to give themselves the opportunity that if it's another time through the order, that yes, you will be seeing again an at-bat against a right-handed pitcher. So when it's there, be ready for it.
Yeah. And look, they're trying things out. Imagine, Rosario's in there against a lefty and it's the 4th or 5th inning and a righting comes in. And the Dodgers all of a sudden have to figure out, okay, do we go to our left-handed outfielder now, or do we let them hit once, knowing that we don't know what the 7th or 8th inning guy they're going to go to? And right now they're saying, hey, I can take an at-bat against a righty, and it's not going to be the end of the world. So we'll see if that keeps up. Some more questions. Tim S. says, it's possible we won't be the NL favorite heading into October like recently. Do you find this weirdly comforting? Team's energy feels like the 21 Braves, low-level trades that could go off in October. Dodgers currently 4.5 games back of Atlanta. They're not the favorite, but in most people's minds, But I would say they got to finish second. They've got a huge lead on that number 2 spot in the National League. Don't have to deal with the wild card stuff. That's my biggest thing. But if they're in the number 2, Scott, is there a weird comfort in maybe? Do you think? Let me rephrase this question. Do you think the Dodgers can avoid pressure in the postseason, even if they're the number 2 team in the National League?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the number 2 seed, I'm not going to say it's the best because you always want to be the number 1 team, but I think with how the seeding is going to go, I would prefer that, I'm not going to say that I want them to finish as, behind the Braves because I'd like them to keep dominating, but it won't be the worst thing in the world with how the wild card is shaking out. Philadelphia is playing really good. I know they're on a 3-game losing streak, but they do have, a team to, kind of disrupt things. And I really wouldn't mind facing whoever comes out of that or like the middle part of the wild card seed. So you could see some upsets, and it kind of doesn't matter. I'm confident in this group, but I don't think it'll be the worst thing. I think they don't as far as pressure. I agree. There's a lot of comfort that comes from where these deadline deals have panned out. And just like you said, this experiment that they're doing with a lot of these guys, giving them different shots against different, positions or situations, and they're succeeding. It kind of feels like they're hitting all the right buttons. So I really don't care. It can be anyone. It could be 1, 2. It's all good.
Yeah, I would zag a little bit just from the question, Tim, because I just think you're the Dodgers and there's going to be pressure. You might not technically be the favorites, but how many Dodger fans do we know that are going to treat them like the favorites? If the Dodgers lose, nobody's going to follow that up and say, hey, you know what? This wasn't their year. They're going to be pissed. They're going to say, you got a big payroll. You got Mookie in his prime. You got Freddie in his prime. Kershaw, who knows if it's his last year. Julio, maybe his last year in Los Angeles. They may not technically be the favorites, but I think they're going to feel the pressure of anything short of a World Series is a failure. Nobody's going to be like, well, you know what? Atlanta was a little bit better. They're just going to be like, no, who cares if Atlanta was better? Yes, they might have been better, but the Dodgers should have won. And so, again, as long as they finish in the top 2, to your point, I'd love to have home field advantage, but just finish in the top 2 in the National League, please. Avoid the wild card, and we'll be good.
Yeah, I think that also last point to that is that you'd play either the 3rd or the 6th seed. So as far as that shakes out, you'd be going up against, Milwaukee, or as it stands right now, I think it's Miami. So that's my point to that. As far as seeding, we'll get into that later on, guys. Don't put me, don't do this so we can, I'm not looking ahead at any playoff stuff here. It's August 15th, but in years past, it has been beneficial to be the 2nd seed.
Yeah.
But I want them to kick ass. I want them to keep pushing on. I want them to, win as many games as possible. I want to see what this team really can do. And if they're clicking on all cylinders, man, we're looking like they're going to win 99 or 100 games.
Yeah. Beaches has a question for us about Bobby Miller. How many innings do you think they allow Bobby Miller to throw? So he threw 14 1/3 at AAA prior to coming up to the majors. He's now at 75 1/3. So he's basically just a tick, basically 90 innings. We'll just round up. 90 innings is what he's at. We were at spring training. I interviewed him and I was like, hey, how are you feeling? And he was basically like, I feel fine. They're holding me back. I don't know why they're holding me back. No injuries. We're good to go. It was kind of a funny interview because he didn't pitch for a while. So the Dodgers were intentionally holding him back and limiting his innings. Now, the Dodgers did not expect Bobby Miller to come up this quickly. He was like 8th or 9th. He was up by necessity, but now he's here. He's at 90 innings. To your point, it's August 15th. This season goes through the first week in October, basically. So if we're talking 6 more weeks, that's 8 more starts for Bobby Miller. We could be talking about a guy who's at 140, 150 innings pitched heading into the postseason. Is that a number that worries you a little bit, Scott?
Maybe. I have, for comparison, I have Walker Buehler's stuff up, and his leash was pretty long as a rookie when he was up. I know 2018 he had through 137 innings. He had 16 in the minors. So Bobby definitely does have some. I know they're not the same guy, but with what Bobby said to you in spring, they kind of had a little, understanding that he was going to be ready at some point this year. Yeah. So this is why we're seeing them keep the reins on him a little bit instead of just letting him go. I think they're letting him go.
Yeah.
Like the 3 starts ago, that was when they saw him pull him a little bit early, 3 and 2/3. That was them, pulling it back. Like, it's not worth it. It's not that it's not worth it. It's that this is an odd situation. Let's, scrap this, restart, and look what they've done. So I think they're playing it perfectly with him. He's responding well. The coaching has been on point. I think he'll be available all the way through the playoffs, depending on where they go. And I don't think they're going to be afraid to really, let it ride.
112 innings, it looks like, is his career high as far as at a professional level. That was in 2022. 91 innings at AA, 21 innings at AAA, for what it's worth. But look, I mean, who knows what his role is going to be in the postseason? Like, if they're mapping it out and he's a reliever or an opener or something like that, then you worry a lot less about what the innings total looks like in the regular season. Yeah. To that point, Alleluia asks, do we see the Miller-Yarbrough combo in the playoffs? I've said go righty, hard throwing righty, and then Yarbrough coming off. I mean, Bobby Miller's kind of the perfect guy because he throws harder than any of the other righties. And then you get a weird lefty throwing 89. That feels like a good piggyback to me, Scott. Is there another version of that piggyback? I mean, we talked about Gonsolin possibly as a guy that you piggyback with Ryan Yarbrough, but what do you think about sort of pairing 2 guys together and saying, hey, we're trying to get 7 innings out of these 2 guys?
I think more planning goes into it just than the starter. I think it would probably be more where the bullpen's at. We saw it with Tony Gonsolin, I believe, right? And it wasn't, that's not that crazy. Gonsolin's not blowing it off with on the radar gun, but I think just Yarbrough's a unique type of arm. He's someone you look at and you're like, he throws what? And he comes in and he's doing the job. So from a pure stuff standpoint, this is, sandwich them together. But why would you? I think that if you intend on having Bobby Miller pitch late in the games, you're not going to save Ryan Yarbrough for perhaps 2 innings if Bobby gets to a point where he's pitching 7. I think that it more so situational where it lines up, where the bullpen's at, where they feel you'll start to hear, Dave and Andrew Friedman talk about, roadmap, and, Brandon Gomes, they'll talk about a roadmap to 27 outs. So I think the situational call for it, where that comes from, I'm not sure. But from a pure stuff standpoint, going from 101, 100 for 5-6 innings, and then Ryan Yarbrough up there, it's fun.
Yeah. David asks, the Braves look unbeatable, Jeff. Don't you think we have an outside chance of upsetting them? Hell yeah, the Dodgers have an outside chance. They're 4 games back. Like, the Dodgers are not like some low-level underdog team that's like, I know we joke that they're scrappy, and I don't mean joke as in they're not scrappy, but scrappy doesn't mean they're not talented. They have 2 of the top 4 MVP candidates. Yes, so do the Braves. But when the Dodgers pitching is on, if Kershaw is dialed, if Julio is dialed, if the bullpen sort of figures itself out because you start to move some starters into the bullpen, like, this is what I'm trying to say. The Dodgers are not some underdog. They're not some small market team that it's like a feel-good story. The Dodgers are freaking stacked. And yes, they're playing really well. And yes, they're getting contributions from Ahmed Rosario and Kike Hernandez and guys like that. But at the end of the day, when the Dodgers put their best lineup out there, it's Mookie Betts, it's Freddie Freeman, it's Will Smith, it's JD Martinez, it's Max Muncy, it's James Outman, it's Jason Hayward, it's David Peralta. Like, you go down the list, that's incredible. They're going to throw 3 or 4 starters at you that are at least average to above average. If we're talking Bobby Miller and Lance Lynn as your number 3 and 4, the way those guys have been pitching, I think the bullpen, which has been really good of late, Dodgers have like the 2nd best pitching staff ERA in all of baseball in the last month. So yes, of course the Dodgers have a chance of beating the Braves. A, the playoffs are a crapshoot, and B, the Dodgers are really freaking good.
Yeah. You look, if you look at the Braves, like the Braves, for as many times they're blowing the doors off teams, it's because their offense is, potent. Yep. They have the same type of stuff. Veteran hitters, they'll put it on you, and they're not willing to, shy away from just almost launching it out of the stadium. So they have thump throughout their lineup, but so do the Dodgers, and they have role players. So you have, Eddie Rosario over there, Orlando Arcia, Nicky Lopez, guys who have kind of, found spots for themselves. Nicky Lopez was acquired at the deadline. He's played well right away. So something about new situations and new places that, when players are playing good, it bleeds off. It puts guys in really opportune spots. So the Braves, for all of that, they have issues with starting pitching depth. The past Max Fried, Bryce Elder, Charlie Morton, and Spencer Strider, his ERA is not really matching up with his FIP right now, but they have the same type of issues. And as far as bullpen strength, Rysel and AJ Minter, and I know they acquired Pierce Johnson, who's been solid since he was brought over there, but same type of issues. It's just that they got off to such a hot start. Guys, look at what the Dodgers have done since the trade deadline, or since the All-Star game, playing out of their minds. Look what the Braves have done. They're playing almost 500 baseball, or like 2-3 games up. So absolutely, the Dodgers have a chance. This is a team that matches up really well. I feel like our platoon guys can match up with anyone in baseball, and the Dodgers have a top four that's as good as any team.
Yeah, I keep saying it. The Dodgers the Dodgers roster is better built for the postseason than it is the regular season. If you were to tell me what are the biggest issues the Dodgers have from a roster construction perspective, you would say they don't have enough starting pitching depth, which is true. But guess what? In the postseason, NLDS, you need 3 starters. NLCS and World Series, you need a 4th starter to make 1 start, and that's if it goes deep. Okay? So having a 5th starter doesn't matter when you get to the postseason. Secondly, bullpen depth. Well, guess what? When you don't need a 5th starter, all of a sudden Emmett Sheehan, Michael Grove, maybe Bobby Miller, Walker Buehler, all those guys become bullpen arms, and you solve the problem. So play the platoons. The Dodgers are going to be nasty in the postseason. Let's do a rapid fire here. Noah, would you rather face in the NLDS the Padres or the Giants?
Giants.
Yeah, easy one for me. Way less talented, and I think I would be less pissed. I hate the Giants, but I just think they're less talented. We'll just leave it there. I don't think they're very good. Here we go. Interesting one here. I know you're going to love this one, Scott. Ali asks, what do you think about Robert's quote about pushing the team more in the playoffs, making it more important, and should he have done that last year? I'll say this. I refuse to believe that the team didn't care about winning in the playoffs in future. Like, I'm just like, oh, we're gonna try harder in the postseason this year. Like, I'm gonna tell the guys to try harder. Like, it sounds great. I don't know. I think this is all nonsense. I think the Dodgers have wanted to win. I think they've tried to win. I just don't think they won. So I don't know. I'm selling the crap out of this idea that there's going to be some like different mindset in the postseason, and that's going to be the difference. I think the playoffs are a crapshoot. I think the Dodgers lost, and it wasn't because they didn't care enough. But that's a zag. I'll admit that's a zag. Most people love this quote.
I like the quote simply because, last year they won a billion games, I think 111 games, and Dave really was hands off with that team. He understood that they were good. It was like, when's the light going to turn on? When are they going to flip the switch? And it didn't, and that cost them. And it was really an embarrassing way to go out. Call it what it is. They performed and then they flopped, and that's just how it goes. But to hear Dave kind of look ahead that last half of the month last year before the playoffs, it felt like they were on autopilot. Like they just were coasting straight into it. I like the quote. I think I'm going to speak for a lot of people that Dave has been kind of at a point where, I mean, aside from getting hammered on for, enough postseason pitching decisions and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, he's just had a ton of opportunities to either succeed or fail. And when you succeed, it kind of gets glossed over because of glory. But when it fails dramatically and it sucks and it sticks with people. But for Dave to really speak up about that, I like that. And if you watch his interactions with the players, it's no wonder why he's saying that this is his favorite team, simply because there's guys on this team who are gelling so well together. And it's, I mean, it's just been cool, man, because Dave looks like he's having more fun managing this type of team than a team that won 111 games. And that speaks to volumes. I'm sure he's going to say that every team's his favorite, but for him to come out right now in the middle of this and with as much fun as they're having and all the interactions that he's having with the veteran guys and the rookies, I really believe him. I think that it's going to go into the postseason with a different mentality, and he's going to be right there with them. And Dave sometimes can be too complacent, but I feel like he's just managed this team differently. And I'm going to take him for that quote. I don't know why. So I'm just going to speak for myself. And if people want to piggyback onto that, but it's something that I want to see from Dave. I don't want to wait until the season's over with a loss before a World Series to really have something happen like that. I want this to be the quote that he kind of carries on.
Yeah, I always love reminding people. Dave Roberts has the highest win percentage of any Major League Baseball manager since 1948. All time. Highest winning percentage since 1948. So keep that in mind. Rapid fire one here. Eric, projected playoff series rotation. I'll let you go first, Scott.
Julio, Clayton, and Lance Lynn.
Okay. Who do you got fourth?
Bobby.
Okay. I've got Kershaw, Julio, Lance Lynn, and I think it's a bullpen game situation, number 4. I think it could be Bobby Miller, could be Walker Buehler as an opener, but I don't think they go full 4th starter. That's my guess.
5-game, they don't. 5-game, you don't need to. You don't need that.
Yeah. And NLDS, everybody, you can do 3 starters on normal rest. NLCS, the 4th starter needs to come into play.
And that's why Ryan Yarbrough is a weapon. That's why Ryan Yarbrough is an absolute wild card weapon, because he can come in and pitch a bulk of that game and extend that. Yeah, man.
There we go. All right. Well, I think that'll do it. We're out of comments. I know you love food questions, Scott. Did you see our fast food draft the other night?
I did not.
Okay. Well, if you had first pick in a fast food item draft, I had first pick. What would you take?
Oh, man. Crunchwrap Supreme.
That's number 1?
Banging.
Wow. Didn't even get drafted. 18 draft picks. Crunchwrap Supreme was not even drafted.
I usually don't do them, and that's why I zag.
Okay, how do you feel about this? Blake said that his favorite thing to order at fast food restaurants is dessert.
Blake likes eating Little Caesars as like a pick, man.
There's nothing wrong with Little Caesars. Didn't make his draft, but hot and ready, $5.99. It's hard to compete with that.
Nah, man, just go somewhere good. Just go get good food.
Yeah. Well, if you missed it, Sunday night, fast food draft, I dominated. In-N-Out, double, by the way, the obvious first choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going In-N-Out 10 out of 10 times. That's just you guys, but you guys make fun of me. You guys make fun of me. I mean, I'm just gonna sit, whatever. Crunchwrap Supreme's chill, but you guys make fun of me for my In-N-Out order, just because I don't get spread. And Joe Kelly doesn't even get spread.
Tell the people what your In-N-Out order is.
Nah, I don't want it. We're 52 minutes in. Gritty Dodgers, easy
double. No cheese, no spread, whole onion. Is that right?
Raw and whole grilled. Gritty Dodgers, baby. Come on.
There we go. That's Scott Geirman. My name is Jeff Spiegel. As always, we appreciate you joining us again live on Facebook, live on YouTube, every Tuesday night, every Friday night. Scott's with me here on Tuesdays. AJ Gonzalez with me on Fridays. And then we got a live podcast every Sunday night. If you're a podcast person, please, we are pushing this. We are brand new on that podcast space. We would love if you would search for DodgerHeads, give us a follow, rate, review. That would be a huge help. You can follow Scott on Twitter at Scott Geirman. I am at Jeff Spiegel, at Dodger Blue 1958, everywhere on social media. And of course, Dodger Blue 1958 right here on YouTube. Subscribing the notification bell, tons of post-game content coming to you there. Interviews, press conferences, all that kind of stuff. Dodgers win 9th in a row, 6-2 over the Brewers. 9-game lead in the National League West. Incredible stuff. So enjoy the rest of your night. And of course, as always, go Dodgers.